Hello, folks. Critical knowledge. This is a dear Governor Whitmer from the state of Michigan, and I bring up two entities. One, the alumni from the University of Michigan on electoral autocracies, and CSIS, Washington, D.C., a Cold War institution created by President John F. Kennedy. It was all made at the height and beginning of the real Cold War. We the people America versus the threat of global communism. Formerly Soviet Union, not the same thing, not officially since 1991. However, China has grown to replace that threat for the United States of America. And this is for everybody. It gets into the reports by, again, two Democrat high institutions, leading scholars, Democrat base from the University of Michigan. Now, there are Republican professors too from other universities, but because the governor of Michigan, Miss Whitmer, the reason why I put you as the deer in the title, and for all friends and followers to understand, Democrats from Michigan University, and the Washington think tank, both largely, predominantly Democrats from the Democrat Party, almost all entirely, did reports on electoral autocracies from many nations throughout the world. And I bring forward two highlighted reports, 2019 and 2023. Okay? So this is the beginning of the Joe Biden coming era after Donald J. Trump. We would get into COVID, these things would explode, and the work would be done. I actually got to Zoom the University of Michigan in these studies as a Canadian observer. Not just that university, throughout the United States, many universities. In fact, other researchers globally tied into this group, all the way to CSIS, Washington, D.C., all on all these areas that threaten the national security of the United States and threaten states of the Union like Michigan. And what's important for everybody to know, that the Canada State of Michigan deal for that bridge was in absence of Canada making monumental changes to the state of America's national security and actually the security of Michigan. And all I ask of everybody is read those reports. I'm going to put them in comments for everybody post the video so you can read what an electoral autocracy is. Because I'm sorry, Governor Whitmer, you deal with Doug Ford, you deal with Mark Carney, you think it's all great and wonderful. However, there are 6 majorly banned technologies from China not to come into North America, let alone cross any bridges. And it's not over. There are billionaires, folks. There are American billionaires who met with Donald J. Trump leading up to this bridge, who warned more than a year ago. Democrat billionaires who said, listen, we're in these technologies, we're into these things, and we're telling you, with what Mark Carney and his new China world order, what he's agreed to with AI, electronics, internet, and marketing, these things will come across that bridge. They will come through the state of Michigan and put all of the United States in jeopardy. And it's not just Michigan, but this is the right now putting a stop to it. And if folks think for a minute when it comes to monetary conditions that that's a power of president, you're wrong. When he says give us half, it's required. And Michigan can be angry because the state funded their portion of it on President Barack Obama, Democrat presidency permitting, but President of the United States, Democrat or Republican, can take it away. And on these Democrat reports, never mind what I went through yesterday on the Congress Committee reports, Commerce Committee reports, they go into all of these things, including energy. The danger now that faces the United States of America from Prime Minister Mark Carney and full-on capitulator Doug Ford. Now, another thing that Americans need to understand, Doug Ford did not participate in his last election as a scheduled election. He took the road of the autocrat, the electoral autocracy, the worst kind of autocrats there are. He's not alone. Many Canadian conservative governments across Canada have been doing this for the last 8 years at an unprecedented rate never seen before in Canadian history. It's a power they could utilize, but it's never been ramped up so high as it has been now. These are absolute Democrat markers of a democracy by the Democrat Party. Absolutely. Maybe down here on a left spectrum, but folks, they're in the we, the people, checks and balances, power to the people. And one of those powers to keep democratic institutions safe is to have regular, scheduled elections. So political actors can't lie, ramp things up when they know it's popular on one given time, hold a snap election, win everybody over, and then turn around with a new, refreshed 4-year mandate to go hard on all the evil things they're going to do to those people before they can figure it out. This is right out of the autocrat's handbook. Unscheduled elections. You can look, Doug Ford just did one. Mark Carney was elected through one. Mark Carney is talking about doing another one. Now that he's got his momentum up from conservatives and liberals in the face of a lot with Canada and a lot of lies. What Canadians feel upset about today may change in the next 6 months as their economic condition goes like this. So he sees that coming because he's going to lie. So he holds what's called a snap election. Now, this is illegal in the United States of America. That's never happened in Michigan ever. In fact, any other state of the union. And it's certainly never happened with the federal government ever. It's why you have president, vice president, why you have governor and lieutenant governors, they pronounce it lieutenant. And it's not same noun where that might trick somebody like Governor Whitmer and other governors of the union. If you think when you look at a Canadian province and you hear lieutenant governor, even though it's spelled lieutenant governor, just like you, they're absolutely same nouns, completely 180-degree opposite definitions. Powers that come with it, autocracy that comes with that, crown privilege, powers way beyond any lieutenant governor of a state, not even remotely close. There's no checks and balances there. And I don't think Americans at the state level appreciate that. Or the fact when we talk about Congress, state Congress versus federal Congress, again, for Governor Whitmer, she needs to look absolutely at all the Democrat committee reports in Commerce, which is the purse power of the Congress, just like Governor Whitmer's Congress at the state level. Power of the money comes from Congress, no different federally. What Donald J. Trump is doing is securing national security so that the Nortel fiasco that was entirely caused where Canada's greatest tech communications giant a valuation of nearly $500 billion. So in American terms, that would be the equivalent to the valuation of your entire military. Can you imagine China coming in and stealing all your military secrets on weapons designs for 10 straight years? And then your military becoming obsolete as China replaces your military globally and can answer every single threat you had but no longer have. That's not an imagination. That happened to Canada. We watched a $500 billion near valuated company become worth $5 billion after 10 straight years of stolen data, stolen everything, plans, models, technology to bankrupt that company by the Chinese government. The threat that's written about by President JFK's CSIS Democrat institution created in his time at the height of the Cold War. And you can read about all those threats post-Nortel and why so many Chinese items that Mark Carney and Doug Ford say, come on in, don't worry, it'll be safe. Yeah, safe. And Canadians' data, can you imagine Americans' data, Michigan state citizens' data being turned over to China? Can you imagine? You don't know what's going to come across that bridge, especially when Canada's supposedly going to be regulating that bridge. Again, it was all good before Mark Carney made his trade deals with China, instituting 6 majorly blocked items by both Democrats, in fact, led by Democrats over the last 17 years. So when people say, wow, but Barack Obama did this, Barack Obama was a great man. Yeah, sure, because Canada wasn't there with China yet, and the results of Nortel investigation hadn't happened yet. Once that happened, Barack Obama switched stance, got too busy investigating himself with his administration in his last year in office. And had he had the time, he probably would have reversed a lot of these things. But now it falls on President Donald J. Trump because Mark Carney and Doug Ford say, don't worry about all that stolen from Canada and Canadians at a valuation of nearly $500 billion. Again, multiply that by 10, and we're talking $5 trillion. Can you imagine, America, your $7 trillion military complex getting devalued to $700 billion, 10 times less its value, because you had been compromised through Chinese AI, Chinese internet access, Chinese marketing and control over your citizens' data, stealing high-end Americans in high places, credentials, passwords, login information, and you losing everything? And you're going to tell me you're going to trust Mark Carney and Doug Ford, who don't even know the CEO of Nortel's real birthday, where he was born, where he's from? You trust those guys? Do you trust those guys? Doug Ford says he doesn't care what political party. It's all good. It's all for Canada. And this Chinese transition is great. Mark Carney says it has to be done. When, on average, 4 Canadians are put to death every year in China. We just watched one go free. Apparently, he's not a drug dealer. But all the others are, right? Including spies as journalists working for CSIS, the other Canadian CSIS, the equivalent of the USA CIA. Right? What do you believe when China does a 180 on a supposed super evil drug dealer who needed to be put to death from Canada? But now it's all good, right? Mark Carney goes, see, China good. It's an overwhelming amount of Canadians who've been put to death in China in those same time periods, none have been put to death in the United States of America. Even Canadians who went into the United States, robbed a bank, shot clerks, for example, shot them dead, right? And even still, they got a life sentence, not the death penalty. America's never put a Canadian to death, not from the period of 2006 till today. China's put mass amount of Canadians to death. And when you look at how many Canadians go to China every year, and at least up until this reduction this year of 30%, which is something like 27 million trips to USA by Canadians, can you imagine at the height of 30 million? Not even comparable. And with no deaths, and then the mass amount of executions of Canadians in China, it's not hard to figure out. And if anyone believes that we won't get ruined again by China, you have another thing coming. And don't believe President Donald J. Trump. I know for a vast amount of Canadians on that left spectrum, although up here in the autocratic lens that I'm trying to teach people today with unscheduled elections and no term limits. Because, folks, there are no term limits in Canada. Politicians can reign forever as long as they can win elections. As long as they can control the media, they can keep winning elections. Always been this way. Always will be. A sad state of affairs. And it's completely anti-American, anti-Democrat Party, anti-Republican Party entirely. And in some respects, these things have been educated by Democrats a lot more thoroughly than the Republicans, who generally just accept it and don't get into the high academia in those respects. Not that they don't. There are a lot. I'm just saying the Democrats overwhelm them in academia on these critical topics. These critical topics rolled out in Washington, D.C.'s Democrat-created think tank, CSIS, by JFK and alumni from all over the United States, from many, many universities, and of course the alumni of the University of Michigan, who write total reports on top of this stuff. The kind of reports that led to the 4-year paper, 4 years now, that publishes Canada as an electoral autocracy, a failure of the two markers of a democratic country. One is scheduled elections and term limits. If you don't have those two things, you're already in autocracy. And that's Canada entirely. Don't take my word for it. Don't take Donald J. Trump or any Republican's word for it. Take the word from your own party, your own high academia, your own University of Michigan, and Washington, D.C.'s Democrat Cold War institution, 1962 till today. Take their word for it as they roll through all of this and give you the electoral autocracy. God bless everybody. That's my video. These are truthful, real, 100% verifiable facts. Undeniable. It wouldn't matter who the President of the United States is. That's what they have to do. They work for the people. Never get blinded by the truth. Never let electoral autocracies diminish we the people of America. And it's sad when governors and their reps get on stages on Canadian media in full ignorance of reality and truth, even betraying the principles and education of their own state, highest university academia, and their own Democrat institutions in the highest level of national security of the country. Democrat. God bless. That's my video. Share, share, share. Don't let the wokesters, the jokesters, the autocrats win. Never let them win. Share, share, share. Let people research and see for themselves. Both reports are undeniable. I will keep pounding and pounding the truth until everybody wakes up or until I'm finished. Love you all. God bless. Bye now.